When they say people have a face for radio, I have no clue what they mean. You are a beautiful, beautiful looking group of people. Thank you for coming to today's session. This is, as I said earlier, Get Ticked Off, an essential checklist for digital success in 2017. My name is Eric Eisen. I am from SoCast. We are the sponsor of this session, and we are very proud to be here at the radio show again this year. I want to make sure that you understand our goal for everyone here today is to take away a few nuggets that you can go back to your stations and groups with and impart upon the rest of your team, share with your fellow teammates. And if we don't give you at least 3, my COO, Sandy Hurst, is back there, and he will buy you a beer if you don't come away with 3. So this will be a great value for you. So welcome to our session. We're going to get going. Please tweet your thoughts throughout the presentation. We have a hashtag #GetTickedOff, and the SoCast handle is @SoCastSRM. We'd love your feedback, some of the things you think are valuable, and you can share those. And of course, there's the hashtag at the radio show for you. So what does SoCast do? We're going to get into the panel, but just to give you an overview of what SoCast does, our mission is to help radio groups make digital easy. We have a platform that makes it easy to build and manage your websites, your mobile apps, and manage your social media all through one dashboard. And that really sums up what SoCast does, in case you're wondering who the sponsor of this event was. We are a stress-tested platform that is active in 5 countries around the world. We have, by the end of 2016, we're going to have over 400 websites and apps up on our platform across the UK, Canada, South Africa, Ghana, and of course in the US. So that's a little bit about SoCast, and now we're going to get really into the meat of what we're here to talk about today. And to frame it a little bit, we want to sort of discuss some of radio's challenges from the way we see it. And then we're going to introduce our great panelists here, and they're going to give you and share some of the great feedback they have that has really helped them drive digital success over the past. So what are radio's challenges today? The first one we see is obviously audience fragmentation. Your listeners are going elsewhere. There is the pure plays out there. There is YouTube. There are all sorts of options for your audience today to go to find music, for music discovery. In fact, 85% of the youth are actually finding music through YouTube now, where radio used to be. And this is a challenge for radio to try to bring those people back in. Digital ad revenue is a struggle, and it's not so much that digital ad revenue is a struggle, it's where advertisers are placing the dollars. Are they going to spend incrementally more on advertising and invest in digital as well as what they're doing just on your traditional radio spots? Or is it just a shift, and how do you sort of balance that out and make the most of it? So digital spending is going to increase by 42% this year. But again, is it that are they taking from Peter to pay Paul, really? Are they taking away from what their traditional spend is just to pay on digital? And how can you get them to actually spend incremental dollars and see the value of the digital side? I thought this was a really interesting quote. I've shared at a number of conferences and sessions we've done, that advertisers are no longer spending in online and offline silos. Radio must stop thinking about digital and traditional advertising as separate, but treat them as an integrated unit. And I felt that that's really a good sort of mantra for everybody, just to start thinking about how you can achieve the goal that we stated in the last slide. Lastly, there are more channels than ever. They are growing and changing at an exponential rate. Obviously, email has been around for a while. It appears radio has done a really good job getting into the mobile app space and is starting to, and obviously on web. But audience increase, there's an increase in audience demand for other channels. There's the connected car. There's the smart television and Apple television. There's virtual reality coming in, and where is that going to play in the way people consume content? And this is a challenge for radio because they need to make sure that they're able to maintain their space as one of the core go-tos for content for your audience. In fact, 20% of vehicles sold in 2015 are going to be connected, And by 2020, there's going to be 152 million sold. So the connected car is coming, and how is radio going to make sure that they stay, on top of that? So, are your brands ready for 2017 and prepared for digital success is our question today. And my panel is going to give you some tidbits and insights as to how you can make sure you are prepared. What are the common traits of organizations that are driving digital? The way we see it, we break it down into the 4 Ps. People, do you have the expertise and resources to drive digital success? The processes, is digital top of mind and part of the station's daily workflow? Policy, do you have policies that are codified within your strategies and procedures that wrap around digital? And platform, do you have the tools that you need and do you and your teams have the tools you need to succeed in digital? So let's get into it. Here's our panel today. Today we have, I wish I had a dating game song that I could play right now because it would be awesome and I would fully do that voice, but I'm not that good. But here we go. So we brought a variety of different people across different stages of the organization to really give you as best cross-section as we could, so you have a good understanding of what's attainable from all different levels. These are people with experience with different market sizes from large to small, so again, providing you with a really good cross-section. So who do we have here today? First off, we have Amy Stroud. Amy is the Director of Digital Marketing Director at Forcht Broadcasting and the host of Mid-Mornings with Amy on Somerset 106.1 WYKY FM in Somerset, Kentucky. Any applause? Cool. Amy took a bit of a break and did some political and nonprofit work, but is really happy to be back in broadcasting after that foray. And she's been with Forcht now for 4 years and was named one of Radio Inc.'s magazine's Rising Stars in 2013. Thank you very much, Amy, for being with us. Michele, she likes to say she speaks 3 languages, programming, sales, and digital. And her more than 20 years of broadcasting have been her teacher. She spent the first part of her career in radio as an on-air personality, including 15 years as a co-host of a top-rated morning show on Neuhoff's flagship station. She also served as a promotions director and webmaster for the market. And in 2013, she transitioned off-air and into her current role of VP of Digital Operations and Strategy. The products she oversees have received several Illinois Broadcaster Association Silver Dome Awards, so we're thrilled to have her as well. Todd Stapleton, right here, has been working with Bud Walters and the Cromwell Group in Vandalia, Illinois for 16 years now, and the past 8 as general manager. In addition to running 2 radio stations, Todd has also takes community service aspect of his position very seriously. He's the president of the Vandalia Chamber of Commerce and is also chairman of the Economic Development Commission. Todd's coworkers like to joke that he accomplishes all of this and still manages to work half days, 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. So thank you very much, Todd, for joining us. Todd is also a SoCast guru and a master of the platform. Last but not least, we're thrilled to have Cowie, who's vice president and COO of Harvard Broadcasting. Cam started his broadcast career in sales in 1983, and he joined the Hill Companies as an account executive. Throughout his career, he's had senior positions with multi-market and multi-station responsibilities throughout Western Canada. And in addition to his corporate responsibilities, Cam has served on several industry committees and boards on a local and national level, and has served as the president of the Broadcasters Association of Manitoba. So thank you very much, guys. So we're going to get into it now, and I really want to focus on the 4 Ps and have you think about those. We provided you with a takeaway, and I'm going to ask some questions that I think will be thought-provoking and hopefully provide you with at least 3 nuggets for you to take away. So the first question I want to ask, and I'll direct it at Michele. Michele, what are some of the strategies that you've used to rally your team around digital to ensure adoption across the organization?
Well, one of the things that we've done that I love doing, when I first started my digital job, we had 3 markets, and everyone was doing their own thing, and everyone was on a different platform, and everybody had their own way of doing their things, and there was really no rhyme or reason. So one of the things we wanted to do to start blurring the lines between markets and working across markets with each other and learning from each other was we started these things we officially call programming summits, but unofficially we call them OTAs, or organized team activities. And we get everybody we can from programming together in one room on one day for about 5 hours. We serve lunch, we have prizes, but then we talk about the things that we really want everyone to focus on, and that's really helped us grow and get moving in the same direction. It's helped enormously with social media, grow our social media. It's helped with a little bit of friendly competition between markets. It's helped more communication between markets, and it's just fun. So that's really helped us.
That's great. How frequently do you do that?
Once or twice a year.
Okay, great. Cam, how about you? And you're the CEO of a company. How have you sort of fostered digital adoption across the organization?
Well, I think it started for us with a commitment by management and ownership to on equality parity. If you don't understand that at least 20% of your tuning is coming from vehicles other than traditional over-the-air, stream and mobility and so on, you're going to get left behind. What we wanted to make sure is that the quality of that offering was as good as or better than our over-the-air. So, I mean, as broadcasters, we make nothing in dropping $15,000 on an Omni 11 processor, but at the same time are worried about the bit rate being too expensive on a 64. So it was, that was really the start of it for us, is making sure that if we were going to do mobility, it was going to be state of the art, it was going to be industry leading.
Eric, his microphone may not be on, or it might have to come closer.
How's that?
Better.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that was really the beginning of it, is to make sure that we had a real commitment to quality and parity, and then that was the start. The rest then is the absolute buy-in of the team, and you have to have champions. You need a champion from the sales side, you need a champion from the interactive side, you need a champion from the management side, the technology side, to make sure that what you do is all really going in the same direction.
Right.
So brand for us is huge. I mean, radio is brand, and brand is radio. So everything that we do has to service and become an integral part of the overall brand, whether it's the mobile app or the over-the-air.
So I was afraid I had a heckler back there, but it's just Bud, so that's okay. Because I was not prepared for hecklers. So that's a really good point, I think, and I think it's important to have digital champions throughout the organization. Amy, how do you nurture those digital champions and make sure that they have a voice and a say and can actually drive change within the organization?
We have 9 radio markets in Kentucky, Indiana, and Illinois, 25 radio stations, and we're all proud to be small market broadcasters. So we have a lot of people who are doing multiple jobs. And so whenever we are deciding what digital platforms and what online platforms that we want to incorporate into what we do, we have to make sure that we're able to maintain them, that we have the staff to maintain them daily, because I think entering into the digital world, one of the worst things you can do is try to run the gamut of all of them and try to be the best at all of them. So I think you have to pick what works best for your markets and your stations. What works in one market might not work in the other. So you need to listen to your team, to your staff, what works for their listeners, what works for them, and then go on an individual market basis while having that corporate and company support. But it's encouragement too, and I think it's important to be able to show them results, help them get results so that they can see we've got people visiting our websites, we've got people clicking through our online banners, we have people texting us and engaging with us through Facebook. So it's being able to help them see what their work is doing for them and for their listeners. And again, it's just being a cheerleader for the hard work that they do every day and listening to what they are telling you that their listeners are looking for.
Great. Anybody want to add to that? Okay, great. Having so many digital layers, as you mentioned, now there's web and there's mobile, and there's SMS and social and a number of other things on top of what you're asking your teams to do just on their regular day-to-day jobs. How have you managed those increased demands? And I think I'll ask Todd this because I know, Todd, you come from a small radio station, small market, and you do a tremendous job generating content and doing a ton of things successfully digitally. So how do you manage the increased demands of digital, given the numbers, given the number of channels that are out there?
Well, I think more than anything, this would be a good plug for SoCast because they make it easy to be able to do multiple things.
We did not pay.
No. But that is part of it. The benefit, though, is you can do a lot of things at once. But you just have to commit to it because you know the numbers are there. Just like you mentioned, the fact that you can see the numbers. And as a lot of us know in small market radio, that's something that a lot of our advertisers ask for a lot of times. How many people are listening? Well, we can't give them great numbers a lot of times because they're just not available in the smaller markets. But with digital, you can give them the numbers. You can show it to them. That's something I share every month with our programming, with our sales. Here's the numbers. Here's our page views. Here's what we have each and every month. So they understand how important it is. And it's what our listeners are looking for, the people that are on our websites are looking for each and every day from us. So you just have to drill home the importance of it, and the numbers show that.
And so, coming back to Michele, Todd alluded to, integrating reporting and KPIs. Michele, how have you been able to integrate digital reporting into the decision-making process, and how does it affect what you're doing on a day-to-day?
We have a few things. One of the things that we do is something called a digital report card. We call it the DRC, and every month we put it out, and there's kind of an overview for everybody in the company, and then there's tabs for each station that dive in deeper to different stats. So that's one of the things we do to track, so everybody can see where they're going and how they're improving or not. And then the other thing that we do is we do a lot of digital contesting, and we track numbers for that. So we'll track not only just page views, but how many people entered, how many votes were there, how many photos were uploaded, those sorts of things. And then we have like a database of that basically, and we can look back and see what were our most popular contests. Okay, well that should become a benchmark contest because that one is obviously really popular. Let's do that every year, and we can grow it. And then we recently had a couple of new markets that we acquired last year, and the benefit for them is they don't have to learn from our mistakes, and we can say, hey, these are the real winners. Here you go.
Great. Todd, what about you? How do you sort of measure digital success?
Well, a lot of what we measure ours by is the reaction we get on social media and the page views we get on our website. But social media is one that we look at on a daily basis because everything links back to our website. So that's something we look at to see what drives it, what stories drive it. We're in a tiny market, so we really try to give everything to the folks who are on our websites, on the air, and so forth. So. But that is one thing that we use to see how it is, and there are certain things are going to be big, and so, but it is good to be able to track it and know what's going to be big, what's not. Doesn't mean you're not giving them everything, but definitely gives you an idea of what's going to be a big deal to your listeners and to your viewers each and every day.
Great. And Amy, what about you? What kind of KPIs do you look at Forcht and to measure your success?
We always use our on-air to promote our online and our digital because we're no longer just radio stations with an added value of digital and online. We are radio stations and digital online. So we gauge if we are on the air and we are asking people to text us with a song request or text us with news that you see happening or text us a keyword to a contest. Are they actually doing that? And if they're not, then maybe for this particular station or market, texting is not how the listeners want to communicate with the radio station. And with the online, if we have promotions, if we have new pages on our website, we tell people, go see those pages, go enter that contest, and then we can track the numbers as to how many people are actually visiting the pages, and we can print off the emails of people who are entering our contest. So we never just put something out there and leave it online or digital, we use the people that our listeners love to hear from every day to tell them this is what's going on with our digital, this is what's going on online. And then if they're listening to us and doing that, then we know it's working. So we use our listeners. That's how we gauge, I think, everything, most everything in radio is what are our listeners telling us that they're doing. So if you're getting the responses when you're asking for them, then you know it's working.
Okay, great. I'll sort of open it up to the panel. Are there any specific key performance indicators that, at a very tactical level that you look at, on an ongoing basis, weekly or monthly, a specific one? Social referrals, anything of that nature?
One of the things that we look at, and this just follows on the heels of what was just said, when we do something on air, and it's tied to the brand, and it's tied to into interactive or to digital, is we look for an immediate response. And if the response is not immediate, we find out why. We talk to the stakeholders. If we're promoting something on air that is not translating back into digital, 8 times out of 10, it's because the jocks haven't followed through with what they were supposed to do. So we look at it. We also, on a monthly basis, go through the analytics with all the stakeholders to make sure that, and obviously we've got 13 stations, you can do a comparative from market to market, where their inserts carried out, was the strategy performed equally in all markets, and how was the growth in terms of the activity on the sites and the mobility apps and so on.
I'd say that's part of the buy-in. I mean, everybody's got to buy in. And just like was said on here, we run promos. At all times, we've got at least 2 promos going. One is to promote going to the website, bookmarking the page, things like that. The other one is one I do every month, and it talks about our page views, it talks about our hits, and it's a sales tool that we use each and every month that I use. I'm not only the GM, I'm also the news and sports director, but we do that. I do that every month. It talks about our page views, it talks about our numbers, it talks about our visits, and it's a sales pitch that we do each and every month. So we always have those 2 promos going at all times on the air. So, it is part of the buy-in to make sure that you're going across everything on air and online.
I would say, okay, there we go. On social, we looked at likes and followers, but now we focus more on engagement across all of the social media. I mean, because we would rather have 5,000 really engaged people than 20,000 people who never show up again. So we try to focus on engagement more.
Right. Okay, great. I want to just switch tacks a little bit and discuss what types of experiences do you think your listeners value in digital, and how have you effectively used digital to complement what you're doing on air? And I'll direct it, I guess, first at Amy.
Well, I think, again, it's knowing who your listeners are and knowing what the format of your station is. If you're a news talk radio station, for example, you will assume that most of your listeners are interested in information more so than maybe music and entertainment. If you're an AC station, your listeners want a little bit more music and lightheartedness and fun. So it's knowing who your listeners are, what they're looking for, want, and then how are they responding the most to you? Are they coming to you online to contact you about something? Are they texting you? Are they going to your Facebook page? And then wherever most of your listeners are coming from, then maybe that's the medium they're more comfortable dealing with you on. But also, if you tell them, please text us and please visit us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram, then they'll do it most of the time if you will instruct them where to go and what to do. But it's just knowing who your listeners are. And again, that changes from market to market and station to station, but giving them every option to get to you, and then every option that you can maintain to get to you, and then looking at the ones that are most effective.
One of the big things we've committed to, and I've made sure everybody buys on this, is consistency. And we know in radio that it is consistency. News is at 6:30, top of the hour is ABC, whatever it is. And it's the same thing with our online content, delivering it at the same time, making sure it's there at the same time every day, so people that are looking for it will find it at the same time every day. They know that they can find that information. And I think that's the first thing you have to do is get consistent, in my opinion. You have to be consistent each and every day with your delivery when it's going to be up there. And then that's when you see your numbers go up. You see those people that are looking for it every day. And then on the other side, when you have done that for a while, that's when you see the numbers, and that's when you can take it out and you can start making some money off of it.
That's great. Anybody else on that? So I think we have a great cross-section of large and small markets up here. I think I'll start out with Cam, and I'd love to hear as many opinions on this as possible. But what are some of the biggest differences you're finding when executing a digital strategy, between the large and small markets? Is there a significant difference, and what are they?
None.
None?
Absolutely none. And I think the reason is, you said you want to take home 3 things, or you have to buy beer?
Yeah.
Well, I'll try and give you 2,
Okay, good.
2
Please.
right now.
Please.
But I want to save one because I'd like a beer. First thing is when you're starting the process, you need to think about consolidation of partnership. We went in a year or so ago, and we had a partner for Stream, and we had a partner for Mobility, and we had a partner designing the sites, and so on. And it always turned into the I said, he said, we said, she said scenario. Everybody else was to blame. So first thing that you should do is look for a consolidation partnership. Look for somebody that can provide solutions across as many of your platforms. Once you do that, if you have other platforms, we're a huge user of Futuri or LDR in Canada at all of our stations. You need to make sure that your partner works well with other people in the sandbox, and it's not a standoffish approach. The other thing is look for a partner where you can push their buttons. And I'm not saying Eric has a button, but if he did, I know where to push it. And really that's making sure that you never ask, can it do it? You always ask, will it do it, and how long will it take? And that's the type of partnership that works. I mean, if today is today, and if you're stuck on today, tomorrow you've already lost the race, because it changes all the time. SoCast was excellent in working with us. We're a big fan of the Sync ad, which is an ad playing simultaneously on air and then into the activity stream simultaneously when somebody's looking at either the stream or the mobile app or whatever. They were able to come to the table with with a little pushing from us and some help to make that happen. And I think those are 2 of the absolute biggest things is that the partnership is super important, and continuing to grow and not just be happy with where you are, because it changes daily.
Yeah, talking about across markets, I would say big, small market, as long as you're giving the people that are going to your website each and every day, you're giving them what they want to see. It is the biggest thing, whether you're a tiny market like we are, or you're a larger market. The biggest story that we had on the website last week, the most views, the most comments, the whole thing, Vandalia has a Halloween parade every year. It's a huge parade. There's about 2,000 people downtown. There's only about 6,000 people in Vandalia. And they made the decision last week that they're not going to have candy at this year's Halloween parade. That was the biggest story of the week, far and away. We had 150 comments. We had just tons of page views. Everybody going to view it. But it was the biggest story I think we've ever had on the website because that's what people were interested in. The word had kind of leaked out, and this was basically the official announcement. No, we're not having candy because of these problems. So it seems like a tiny thing, but it was what people were looking for. Back in July, we had our managers meeting, and at that time, our big story was the fact that the city of Vandalia had just come up with a new plan where everybody got their own individual trash can from the sanitation company, and people were complaining about that, and that was a huge story at the time. But these were 2 things that people were worried about, were interested in, and not to make light of it, there's obviously other things that go on too, and one thing.
Are you saying that there is a election news fatigue in Vandalia?
There could be. I think that could be. But one thing that I will look at too is we had an Amber Alert back in the summer, and one of the great things we were able to use was we were able to use the website. We were able to use on air really in combo with each other, because we were sending them there for the pictures. We were continuing to push out. And we have just a once a week newspaper in town, but they've got a website, they've got Facebook. They did nothing with these things. And we've seen that with a lot of things where they're just not even bothering with. So I'd say the biggest thing, small market, big market, whatever, is giving the folks that are following you, listening to you, giving them what they want to know about and want to see.
And I believe the fundamentals of digital strategy and online strategy are the same, whether you're a large market or a small market. We're all working for the same reason, and that's to engage our listeners and to give them what they're looking for, and then in turn to make money for our radio station. So we all have the same goal. I would say the one, maybe if there is a difference, the difference with small market radio is that we have a lot fewer people to do it than maybe a larger market and a larger station would. Same amount of talent, just not enough of it. So whenever you are dividing up, again, digital responsibilities, you have to make sure you've got the team in place to be able to do it. And you don't want to overload your team that already has multiple tasks with different platforms that are going to be difficult to use, that are going to take a lot of time, that they're going to have to put aside other duties to do. Then it probably won't get done. So again, if there's a difference with small market, it's the number of people that you have on your digital team.
Michele, anything?
I think that Halloween candy thing is bogus. I mean, who's
So
gonna
did
go
a lot
to
of
the
folks.
Halloween?
All right. I think one of the things you all referenced, and I'll start with Michele because I want to get your feedback on it. And one of the things that was a common thread amongst that is your digital partner and the technologies you use. And I do want to say that not all 4 people are SoCast users. Everybody up here does have. Michele and Amy are not on the SoCast platform, and I think that's important. But what do you look for when you are looking for a digital partner and looking at technology? What are some of the core considerations you would advise some of our audience to consider?
Well, I think Amy referenced it. I mean, we have a limited number of people that are doing lots of different jobs. So our products have to be very user-friendly so that we can teach multiple people how to use them and spread it all out. So that's super important, user-friendly. We also want partners who aren't set it and forget it partners. We want partners who are constantly evolving their product as well. And I'm not a huge fan of long contracts, especially in technology. I just don't really like them because it changes so quickly. So I like shorter contracts. In addition, when I'm researching somebody, I love the presentations and those are great, but I want to get my hands on the product. Because it's totally different when you're looking at a pretty PowerPoint and then when you're actually in there using it. So I always request to actually get my hands on the product so I can play with it and I can use it and I can see what it really does.
Well, that's a really good point, and one of the things that we looked for in new partnership was the ability to be part of the build. We've all been there when we've turned it over to somebody else to do it for us, and it always comes back that it's a coding error and then layer on layer of patch and so on. This go around, we took a very active interest in the build process so that our teams in the markets were, based on a template scenario, really designed in the overall strategy and structure for their brands and their individual markets. That worked wonderfully, and that eliminates the satin, the red light guarantee of the taillights. It's you train the trainers basically, and they do a great job if they've been a part of the actual build and structure.
Whenever we choose vendors to be a part of our digital team, they become a team of our radio station. That we think of them as partners, just as those of us who have worked together for a long time are partners. So we want to make sure they're invested in us, that they have our best interests at heart. And I know in our positions, and probably many of yours too, you get a lot of phone calls from vendors who want your time and who want to talk to you about the products and services that they offer. And for me, I get a little, I don't call it trivial at all, but in the beginning, if they can't pronounce the name of our radio group, then that's a turn off to me.
I'd be offended if they called it Forcht too.
They call it Forcht, but it's Fork. And it's not that difficult to find that out. Whenever I'm not sure how to pronounce the name of someone I do business with, I call and ask, how do you pronounce the name of your whatever? So do that, and I like emails too. It's nice to talk on the phone about a product, but if you're getting a call in the middle of the day that you weren't expecting, and the person is talking to you about something you're interested in, an email is good. Can you send me an email about what all you do? Maybe some proposals. Can you email that to me so that I can print it off and take a look at it? I had someone tell me no once. We don't have anything we can email you. And that makes it really hard to get to know a vendor and what they can do for you. And then I always go to the website after speaking with a vendor. I go to their website. Do they have a good website? If they're a website and digital entity, do they have good online and digital presence? But again, it all goes back to, does the product work for us? Can we do it quickly? Can we do it fast? And can it serve our listeners?
Did they write you a letter, maybe?
No, they apparently just wanted to talk on the phone.
I would say for us, it's got to be easy to use. It can't be difficult to use. And yes, we are a SoCast. Our platforms are SoCast, but it's got to be easy to use. I'm not the most digitally savvy person on earth, not at all. And I'm the one that posts 99% of what goes on our websites, and it's got to be easy to use. I've got to be able to get it up there quickly. I've got to be able to share it on our social media pages quickly. Flexibility is another thing. One company we used to work with, you could have an ad here, an ad here, and an ad here, and that was it. And again, I'm giving you another plug, but you can put ads where you need to put them. You know, you got somebody that wants to sponsor this, you can put an ad there, you can move things around. So I think you got to be flexible because we all are different. Whether it's our market or one within our company or these guys, everybody's a little bit different on what people want and what they're going to be able to sell and things like that. So I'd say easy and flexible are the two things we would look at pretty much all the time.
Great. I want to come back to the people of the 4 Ps, and I want to ask Cam, given sort of the new digital era that we're in, what do you look for when you're hiring a new hire to ensure that they're going to fit the culture and help, propagate your digital culture?
I think it's trying to find that perfect person, and every now and then you do, and you want to make sure that they understand digital, obviously, but if their digital understanding is not backed with some type of sales acumen, that's a problem. If it's only sales acumen with no digital, that's a problem. So what you're trying to do is find somebody that can talk the talk and walk the walk. And when you find that person, hire them, pay them well, and let them have a parking spot, because you don't want them to go, because they're really, really hard to replace. So that would be the champion, and that's the person that can talk to the programmers and understand from a programming perspective what they're trying to accomplish with the engagement components. To the salespeople, who they understand what's happening with the analytics and how can we use those analytics to sell digital and or in combination with radio, sell multi-platform solutions.
Michele, what about you? I wanted to get your opinion on that as well.
Well, I would say from the programming side, I would say that we want. For me, when it comes to digital, I don't dictate to the PDs what they're going to look for their on-air talent. But obviously, they understand that whoever their on-air talent is going to be needs to be good at social media and good at production and good at live events. I mean, that's a lot of things to be good at. And so if they're not the greatest at digital when they come in, I can handle that as long as they're coachable and eager to learn. And I would much rather have somebody who's not necessarily the greatest digital but is coachable and eager to learn than somebody who comes in and thinks that they don't need to learn a thing. So for me, that's what I would say.
On both my jobs at the radio station and also as a chamber president, the best luck I've had were with ex-newspaper guys, because they had that background in working with the visual side. They had, because they were small market newspaper, they'd also done some news, they also understood content. So we've had pretty good luck with folks that can handle the the design part and get what's important with former newspaper folks. And there's a lot of those out and about in the market. Bless you.
Bless you. Amy, I know at Forcht, you have really undergone. That's right.
We're so close to being on their team.
I know at Forcht, you have made a lot of digital changes in the last year, and you have a lot of initiatives going on. What advice can you give, influencers like yourself? What advice do you have to help push up digital change to the executive level? How have you gone about making sure that they're hearing it and are willing to invest?
Well, I'm very fortunate that at Forcht Broadcasting, I was actually brought on because our ownership and our management believed very strongly in progressing in the digital world. So I did not, thankfully, have to fight that battle. They asked me to come and do this because they know that it is what radio is now. So I hope for you all that's not an issue, but show them results. Results mean everything. You can have all the fun in radio that you want, but if you can at the end of the day prove your worth to your listeners and to your ownership and to your managers, then unfortunately we're all out of a job. So show them how many people are visiting you online. Show them these are how many clients we have with us right now, online and digital, that are pleased with what we're doing. We're getting good click-through numbers on our websites. We have a lot of people who are engaging with us via texting and who are following us on Facebook and watching all of our Facebook Live shows and engaging with us. Let them know that. Show them that. And if you have good ownership and good leadership, then they'll understand that, and then they'll give you the tools and help you get the tools that you need to do your job. And I would say, going back to if you're hiring someone to help you with digital, maybe things you should look for. I think no matter the size of your radio station, all radio teams need someone now with what radio is to help with digital and lead the efforts. But don't necessarily look for someone who can build you a website or who can build you an app. Look for someone who can tell you what your website needs to do, what it needs to be, what your apps need to be, how to take the social mediums and use them for your radio station. I'm not a techie, I can't build a website, but I would like to think that as a group we can help each other on our team know what our websites need to do and be and what mediums we need to engage with.
I know one that really works is each year you show the ownership a 30% increase in digital.
That would be great. That would be great. I think I've done my best to ask questions to make sure you guys get your 3 nuggets so we don't have to buy beer. But I wanted to also give you guys the opportunity to come up and ask the panelists any questions you may have. There is a mic in the center of the room, and I do encourage you to come up and ask Amy, Cam, Todd, or Michele any questions you do have. Anybody? And if you just want to yell from your seat too, we're comfortable with that.
Yes, I'll direct this question. Start with Amy and then anyone else. You spoke about results and spoke about some of the engagement and a list of clients. Could you be more specific in terms of revenue as a percentage of overall gross, and any other panelists that will address that?
We have, in terms of, not every medium, of course, you can sell. We focus very much online because that is a medium that we can control. Not all mediums that we can. For a small market radio group, we have grown in revenue. Percentage-wise, I'm not sure, but we are making tens of thousands a year just on digital. And we do gauge that. We of course gauge our online revenue. What are we getting from our online clients, and then our digital. And it's growing every year. And I think that's important because you do need to grow every year. If you're not seeing your digital revenue grow every year, then you're not doing something right with it. So I think you have to gauge that for your market. If you're a small market radio station, don't think that you are ever going to make the digital revenue that a major market station is going to get. So it's not apples and apples. It's very different on how you gauge your own success, as long as you're growing every year.
Our percentage is between 8 and 10% is where we've been this year. We're at 8.8% this month. I actually looked at last night just to make sure where we're at, but we've been between 8 and 10%. We have seen growth every month of this year, so 8 to 10%. I'd like to continue to grow that as we go forward. That's been actually a big push I've had with my salespeople. That's kind of my benefit. I get to be on the programming and sales side. That's something that we've really been pushing on, is to go into next year with closer to a 12 to 15%, but 8 to 10% is where we've been for this year on the revenue side.
One of the things that we're seeing, and this may be a Canadian term, I'm not sure. It's still in the grand scheme of things, mice nuts compared to what airtime sales is. But what we're finding is we're using digital now to help sell radio digital solutions. So we may be going out with a digital offering, but we're coming back with a digital and airtime solution. And I think that's been the big win for us, is we're not trying to sell them as individual components. We will. But when we go out and we talk about sync ads as an example, here's your placement, here's how it works, here's how it goes into the activity stream, this is your exposure weekly, and so on. So really selling it as a combination is what we're doing.
And that really is what's most effective, because your listeners are everywhere. So we tell our clients, they're on air here with you too, but they're going to visit our website and you need to be there too. And that way they're getting as much exposure as possible. So we try never to sell our digital individually. Most of our online and digital clients also are on the air with us. We just bring them over to the digital so that no matter where our listeners go, they're there.
No proposal leaves our building that does not include digital.
But you do send proposals, which is great.
Yes. But everything includes digital. Everything we do includes a digital, some level with digital in it.
You guys hit on quite a bit right there. Quick question I have is, are you finding it easier to offer both when you're going out? Is it an easier step when you're going?
Are you finding it easier to offer both? Is it?
From not having digital at all?
Yeah, absolutely. And it all stems from the advertisers understand that your tunney's not just over the air anymore. So that's probably the place we start from, is that regardless of whether the listener that's engaging with us and is the conduit back to your brand and what you're selling is, if they're listening on mobile, we want to be on mobile. If they're listening through the stream, we want to be on the stream. If they're listening over the air, if they're part of the digital dash, it doesn't matter. We want to give them the same quality engagement of brand as they would get across the board, and that's how we're presenting it. So it's the world has changed, I guess, in terms of the players. The concept is the same, whether it was print and digital or print and interactive. One informs, one inspires, and that's how we're going out onto the street.
And the dollars aren't being traded, or you haven't seen that?
No, it's being augmented. Really, is the solution is better the pair than individually.
It's never easy, but it is getting a little bit easier to do that, and a lot of it is making sure that our sales team and our salespeople know when you go out and talk to a client, you cannot forget to talk about your online and digital platforms, because if you go back to that client later and try to talk about it, they're going to wonder, why did you talk about this in the first place with me if you thought it was so important? So it's about making it a part of the conversation from meeting number one.
We'll have time for one more.
Thank you. I'm also from Canada, from British Columbia. So we've been using the digital platform and website now for about 4 years, and just wondering how you feel best, how you can, what rate structure do you use? We're using cost of 1,000. There's been pitfalls in that as well. We're dealing with agencies that are coming in and quoting a major market. We're selling it for much less cost of 1,000. We're in a small market, and we can tell them where it's going. We charge more, but we're losing sometimes buys because it's the cost of 1,000. Also, how do you monetize? We've got, on average, like we're small markets, so we've got about 150,000 page views a month. And on much of streaming events, we get up to 300,000. And we have 10,000 Facebook followers that we engage with. But I'm not sure how we completely monetize Facebook right now, except it's promoting on all platforms. And the effort that goes into it, I'd like to get a bigger return, but I don't know how to do that.
Well, we have two separate scenarios here. In a large market, we're selling on a cost of 1,000. We're selling, so you take a big box and it will be on a rotation. And once it hits the rotational level of X number of hits or exposures, then the rotation. So that would be Calgary, or Edmonton, and Yorkton. cost per thousand is still a foreign concept, so it's how much is the box. So, somewhere in that spectrum is how you have to price it. If you've got unsold digital inventory, you're pricing it too high, and if you've got sellout, you're pricing it too low. I mean, it's exactly the same as, and it's you have less of that obviously than you do with your airtime. So, but our success has really been packaging it together and showing why it works in combination with radio.
We don't really do cost per thousand. Like you said, sometimes that ends up being so low. And we have really great relationships with our local clients. So one of the things we do on one of our properties is it's called channel1450.com, and it's a sports media site that stands on its own basically, and it's heavy video. And they have several features that they've cultivated. One of them is called 10 Question Tuesday. It's their most popular feature. They do it every Tuesday. And what we do is that gets so many video views on it. We sell video pre-rolls, and we sell them as a piece of a pie. So, we might sell 5 different sponsors, and each person can get a piece of that pie. And we get a lot more than what we would for cost per thousand.
We don't do cost per thousand either, and we try not to overcomplicate how we sell our online and what digital pieces that we can. We think a lot of it as we do radio spots. It's based on market, it's based on wattage. Look how many people are visiting your website, and go from there. And I don't know that there is a scientific way to do it. You just have to gauge how many people are engaging with you and price it as you think from there as a part of an online piece, or on-air piece.
I kind of use it in the same terms that somebody on air, if they'll ask, well, how do you deal with Sirius or those? If you're listening to us, then you want what we can give you that Sirius can't, that Pandora can't. As long as we're still delivering that, we're important. And it's the same thing with your website. It's just like we heard today at lunch, that the numbers for radio are still vastly bigger than Pandora or Sirius. But as long as we're giving the content that you can't get anywhere else, whether it's web, whether it's on air, that's the important thing.
Thank you, guys. That was a great, and we'll just wrap it up for the next few minutes here. And I really want to thank everybody, all your. So before you go, just to wrap it up, consider we've provided handouts. We hope you'll find them useful to give you at least some thought-provoking things to use the 4P framework to move forward and take back to your team. The way we see it, and I think just to take some of the feedback we've got today, the lowest hanging fruit, to start are, starting a digital steering committee and having regular meetings that are focused specifically on digital to identify gaps and opportunities. Start generating original digital content, focus on blogs and news and social. Make sure your ad teams are prepared and can sell it and have the tools and understanding how to go out and actually package it so they can make a difference for their ads. And don't consider it as two separate silos. Make sure you have key performance indicators and metrics that will help you identify success. They can change, but you certainly want to have some targets and goals that you can share internally. And lastly, make sure that you have a simple, easy-to-use digital ecosystem, a platform that will work with your team and not complicate digital and make it difficult to update websites, mobile apps, things like that, difficult to push out content, because really what radio is best is amazing content producers, and you want to reflect that and extend that into the digital realm. SoCast has 3 products that help do that. It is the SoCast Web. It is a content management system that is integrated with the mobile app as well, and it also integrates seamlessly with a digital social relationship management platform to make it all easy on one single dashboard. And we really subscribe to help you do 5 things. We want you to have radio everywhere. Make sure you're in every channel at all times so your audience can find you where they want and when they want. Virtual manpower. Don't add it as a layer. Make sure that you have easy platform. Our platform makes it easy, has workflows built in that will help you facilitate all of this. Revenue growth. Todd has done a phenomenal job growing and continues to grow, as does our partner at all of our Harvard stations, and the platform has really helped realize that. With our tools like AdSync and things like that, it adds a lot more. Innovation, we are constantly updating our platform. We have over 300 enhancements and new features added every year over the last 2 years. So we're constantly taking feedback from our clients and incorporating it. And I think that that's one of the things one of our panelists alluded to when selecting a digital partner, is that they're constantly updating and innovating on it. And lastly, it's partnership. So it's not just enough to have the platform that works for you, but you need a partner that will actually work with you, team with you, as Cam said, push the buttons and make sure that they're constantly driving forward, and to make sure that they can help you with your ideas and execute them properly. We are located at booth 314 in the marketplace. There's no number on it, but you've seen our logo 1,000 times, so please come by and visit us. Don't forget to take your free digital checklist. And you can email me if you want a free digital consultation to talk more at eric@socastdigital.com. And lastly, our COO Sandy is at the back door there, and if you drop your card to him, we are giving away $5,000 in services to one lucky recipient and attendee of our panel. So please stop by and say hello to Sandy and meet him, give him a card, and we'll be reaching out with a winner on Monday next week. Again, I want to thank our panelists. The chairs up here are very slippery and nobody fell off. So hopefully no beers. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the radio show.